In a small town called Greenvale, the air was filled with a fresh scent of flowers and trees. However, the residents began to notice changes around them. The summer days grew hotter, and the winter nights seemed to last longer. These changes were not just strange. They were signs of climate change. The people in Greenville started to learn about climate change through news on TV and social media. They saw footage of cities with severe storms and wildfires that burned for days. Families lost their homes, and beautiful places were destroyed. The residents realized that big companies and factories, which produce smoke and waste, played a large part in this problem. They understood that human actions, like driving cars and using plastic, added to the issue of climate change. Many people in Greenville shared personal experiences that showed how climate change affected their daily lives. Young Emily, a student, spoke about how her family had to water their garden more because the rains were less frequent. Mr. Thompson, a farmer, faced challenges when crops did not grow as they used to. Concerns for the future began to weigh heavily on everyone's hearts, as they worried about what kind of world their children would inherit. At first, the residents felt powerless, but they decided to make a change. They started small by reducing waste and recycling more. They gathered in the town hall and proposed creating a community garden where everyone could plant vegetables and fruits together. This not only helped the environment, but also brought people closer. They shared stories and knowledge about how to care for plants, starting with simple herbs like basil and mint. As word spread, more townspeople joined the effort. Families began biking instead of using cars, and children planted trees with their parents. Each little action showed that they cared for their town and the earth. The warmth of togetherness spread through Greenville, proving that when a community comes together, hope can grow, even in challenging times. While climate change felt overwhelming, learning and acting together made a difference. Gradually, Greenville transformed into a green haven, a place where nature thrived with effort and love. They showed that every person has the power to create positive change for the planet, and they did it together, step by step. As Greenville's journey toward becoming a greener town continued, the excitement began to blend with frustration. While many residents were eager to help, some felt uncertain and doubtful. Emily often heard her friends whisper, "Can we really make a difference?" These questions echoed in her mind, and emotions turned heavy. Climate change seemed too big for their small town. Would their efforts even matter in the grand scheme of things? To understand this better, the residents started to analyze the world around them. They held town meetings to discuss why climate change was such a big problem. They learned that companies, which earn money by polluting, often found ways to keep going without thinking about the damage they caused. Factories released smoke and waste into the air and rivers, harming the environment. As a result, more people fell ill, and many families struggled with health issues. The news shared stories about towns nearby where industries had poisoned the water supply, making it unsafe for families to drink. It dawned on the residents that some businesses profited at the expense of the health and well-being of their community. At a community gathering, Mr. Thompson passionately shared his thoughts. "These companies have power and money. They don't care about our struggles. They look at profits while we face the consequences," he said. As he spoke, many nodded in agreement. People felt constricted by long-standing policies that allowed these harmful habits to continue. Sometimes, they felt like they were fighting a storm with just their hands. In the weeks that followed, conversations sharpened. The issue presented itself in many parts of their daily lives, from the air they breathed to the fields they farmed. Emily talked with her friend, Sarah, who spoke of her family's struggle with rising grocery prices. "It's hard because big companies control the food market. They use chemicals that hurt the environment, which raises the prices for everyone," she explained. Emily realized how many families were caught in this web, struggling to make ends meet while knowing they faced more significant threats in the future. Doubt began to creep into their hearts. Neighbors questioned if their community garden would even last, or if their efforts were simply a drop in an endless ocean. They needed motivation and support as they faced daily tasks while intending to make big changes. But through yearning for change, resilience began to grow. Residents decided that communicating about their struggles was just as important as trying to solve the issues. With every discussion they held, Emily and her friends found strength in each other's stories. One fortifying moment came when they invited a local environmentalist to speak. She shared how she had faced challenges in her own town, but succeeded through tenacity and teamwork. Her stories sparked hope. The tales of other communities banding together and making progress lifted the spirits of Greenvale. They were inspired to push back against the weight of self-doubt. Though every worry loomed like a shadow, the important conversations started filling them with determination. They realized change was not an overnight task. It needed steps filled with hope and connection. Little by little, struggles gave way to learning, making every powerful voice count. Through heartfelt discussions, the people of Greenvale learned that their self-doubt could not stop them. It would instead become a tool for growth, allowing them to address challenges with an open heart and a protective spirit, hoping to build a more robust future for their community. And while uncertainties remained, their commitment grew stronger, connecting people through shared challenges and dreams. As the days passed in Greenvale, something began to change in the air. The efforts to embrace a greener way of living led to small victories that filled the residents with newfound hope. Their community garden flourished, bringing forth fresh vegetables and fruits that not only brightened their meals, but also their spirits. Yet as their community made these strides, they still encountered significant obstacles and challenges. Some people in town were not ready for change. A few neighbors voiced their worry about costs. Why should we spend more on organic food when cheap options are available? They questioned. Others feared that chasing eco-friendly ideals would lead to higher taxes. This fear thickened the air, creating tension among the townspeople. The whispers grew during meetings, and concerns echoed long after they ended. Amid this uncertainty, there was a growing need for leadership to guide the town. They invited a local environmental expert, Dr. Green, to speak about climate change. With her kind smile and wisdom, she shared evidence of how communities across the country tackled climate change effectively. Dr. Green told them, "You have the power to change things. Investing in green solutions can be a smart, long-term decision." Emily and her friends listened closely to each word. Dr. Green introduced ideas about solar panels, rain barrels, and community cleanup initiatives to keep their town sustainable. While her solutions inspired many, there were doubts about how realistic they were. "Solar panels cost a lot initially," grumbled Mr. Jenkins, a local businessman. "Can we really afford to invest in that?" The tension was palpable as some residents nodded in agreement, still clinging to their fears of change. Despite resistance from various groups, many people started to see the truth in Dr. Green's words. They knew that positive steps towards change could lead to financial and health benefits in the long run. Neighbors rallied to connect and engage with one another, forming small committees to explore different projects like using rain barrels, which were affordable and easy to set up. They began to understand that even little wins mattered. Public meetings uncovered the beauty of collaboration as individuals shared clever ideas on a budget. Emily and her friend Sarah proposed a plan to create a local coop. They wanted to pool resources to buy local, organic produce at lower rates. "If we work together, it's easier," Emily exclaimed. Slowly, this unity transformed into excitement as more families joined in, thrilled to be part of something larger. As excitement grew, so did involvement from the younger generation. Teenagers, alongside their parents, took to social media, spreading the word about their efforts. They formed a Greenvale Instagram account to document their initiatives and successes, sharing photos of team cleanups and joyful gatherings. Over time, they noticed their friends from nearby towns wanting to participate too, creating a ripple effect of enthusiasm and positivity. Although some hesitation lingered in Greenvale, the wave of growing confidence now moved through the community like a strong breeze. They recognized that addressing these persistent obstacles also required patience and perseverance. It was clear they had entered a new chapter of their journey. The small victories and collaborative efforts began to overshadow the fears. Everyone in the town felt the change, moving from resistance to resilience. With every little win documented, hearts swelled with pride. It wasn't just about a garden anymore. It became about creating a life where they could enjoy the richness of their surroundings and depend on each other as a vibrant community united in their commitment to a brighter, greener future. Just as Greenvale began to feel a sense of unity from their small victories, a dark cloud loomed above them. One afternoon, news broke that a large factory planned to open just outside of town. This factory promised jobs but came with a catch. It was known for polluting the air and water. Many in Greenvale faced a tough choice. They were thrilled about potential job opportunities yet terrified of the harmful effects this factory could bring to their beloved town. The tension was high as neighbors met in the town hall to discuss the situation. Emily watched as voices rose in anxious debates. "We need these jobs," one man said. "But at what cost?" countered Mr. Thompson, his face etched with worry. The room buzzed with concern and hope, the mixed emotions a sign of the crossroads at which they stood. As news spread about the factory, the local newspaper ran an article highlighting both sides. The writers shared stories from those who feared losing the clean air they had fought hard to protect. But they also covered opinions from residents excited about the prospect of jobs. Social media swirled with discussions too. In a matter of days, hashtags about the factory trended, and videos emerged showing local families expressing their fears. The media attention infused energy into the air, sparking public protests against the factory. People gathered in the streets, holding up signs that read, "Protect Greenvale," and "Jobs without pollution." Emily and her friends joined in, feeling empowered to stand for their community's values. The activities caught the focus of nearby towns and sparked wider interest in the issue. More townsfolk rallied together to reinforce their stance against pollution, forming alliances and enhancing their message. Dr. Green returned to town to support the cause. Her presence added an air of expertise that brought even more residents to share their views. She explained, "We can advocate for green job policies that benefit our community without harming our environment." Her advocacy triggered conversations about sustainable alternatives. What if they pushed for the factory to adopt more eco-friendly practices? Residents began to see that it was possible to balance job creation with environmental responsibility. Still, not everyone in Greenvale was convinced. Some residents feared that opposing the factory would lead to lost opportunities. The debate turned fierce, with families divided. This fracture revealed the heart of the struggle, the tension between economic needs and environmental protection, a fight felt in many places across the country. As momentum built, the tension boiled over in an intense town hall meeting where voices turned loud and heated. Emily stood at the back, her heart racing as she listened to the arguments. She decided to speak, taking a deep breath. "We have fought too hard for our town. We can't let fear divide us. Let's find a solution that can bring jobs and keep our town clean," she urged, hoping to unite her neighbors. Slowly, heads began to nod, and whispers of agreement filled the air. Emily's words shifted something in the room. It became clear that their passionate fight for Greenvale's future illuminated what really mattered. They wanted their town to thrive, but they wanted it to thrive cleanly. Public opinion began to shift as more people rallied behind creating safer practices. The media, which had initially focused on division, now highlighted stories of collaboration, amplifying their voices. Greenvale was not merely a town debating jobs versus pollution. It was a community responding together to build a cleaner, happier, and sustainable future for everyone. The challenge ahead felt daunting, but for the first time, there was a unifying thread weaving through the fabric of Greenvale's hopes, binding neighbors together as they faced a crucial choice for their town's destiny. The tension in Greenvale reached a peak on the day of the public hearing about the factory's proposal. The town hall was packed, buzzing with excitement and anxiety. Residents spilled into the hall, filling chairs, lying on the floor, and creating an electric atmosphere. They were ready to voice their opinions as officials prepared to listen to what the community had to say. Emily felt the weight of anticipation pressing against her chest as she crowded in with family and friends. This was a pivotal moment for their town, and the air was thick with emotion. When the hearing began, local leaders shared testimonials, and scientists spoke about the potential environmental damage of the factory. Residents passionately voiced their fears one after another. Emily listened as mothers spoke about their children's health, and families shared stories about the importance of protecting their home. The growing crowd reflected a mixture of determination and trepidation. Emily's heart soared each time someone added their voice, united against the prospective factory. Just as hope filled the room, an unexpected announcement sent shockwaves through the audience. The representative of the factory stood, an imposing figure with a confident demeanor. He promised jobs and stated that the factory would follow strict regulations to combat pollution. "This is an opportunity for growth. Don't let fear rule our future," he urged, speaking directly to the crowd. For some, this palatable promise caught them off guard. A murmur of conflict rippled through the audience as many felt torn between economic opportunity and environmental protection. Emily's stomach sank as she noticed neighbors whispering, eyeing one another with uncertainty. Then, without warning, tension erupted. A local farmer stood up, visibly shaken. "I lost my crops last summer because of pollution," he cried. "We can't allow more. This factory will ruin what we have worked so hard to protect." His voice rang out like a call to arms. The urgency in his words bore the weight of many frustrations, and the crowd rallied around him with claps and cheers. Suddenly, the passion that built over many weeks surged into raw energy. The air buzzed with resolve, guiding the community toward reminding them why they began this fight in the first place. But the debate did not settle easily. As the exchange heated up, some began to leave the meeting disheartened, feeling ignored by those in authority. Those advocating for jobs and progress felt left out, while discussions about balancing the economic needs with environmental issues escalated. Emily could visibly see the divide among her neighbors' faces as some spoke in anger, while others defended their desires for security. Finally, as tensions mounted and emotions flared, the meeting descended into chaos. Chairs shuffled, people spoke over one another, and fear gripped the room. It felt hopeless for a moment until something remarkable happened. Dr. Green stood up once more, raising her hands for silence. "I understand both sides. This conflict reveals how interconnected we truly are as a community. Let's not forget why we care: our children, our health, our future," she said. Her calm but firm voice reached deep into the crowd, and gradually the rambunctious noise faded. Dr. Green proposed finding a middle path. "What if we asked the factory to invest in sustainable practices like renewable energy sources and clean water management systems? To offer jobs and protect our environment?" With every word she spoke, Emily felt the tension transform into optimism. This moment struck like lightning. There was clarity amid the chaos. People began to rally around this idea, taking small steps toward balance, shifting the power dynamics. Emily noticed heads nodding. Residents regrouped and returned to the task at hand, suggesting alternative compromises as a united community. Steps toward a collective goal seemed far more powerful than individuals focused solely on self-interest. There was fire in that town hall now, a determination that surged like a tide going out toward the horizon. The rush of emotions swirled together: fear, hope, and a deep desire to protect their home crystallized into a single, hopeful notion that they could move forward together. The breaking point became a point of insight, illuminating the path toward a future where their children could breathe clean air and thrive in a vibrant community, leaving a legacy for generations to come. The aftermath of the intense town hall meeting left a profound mark on Greenvale. Residents departed with a mix of hope and determination, aware that their struggle was far from over, but also filled with a new sense of purpose. Emily took a deep breath as she walked home with her friends, the weight of emotion still lingering in the air. They discussed the evening, recalling how their voices combined to create something powerful. "I can't believe we stood up for what we believe in," Emily said, her voice full of energy. "It felt good to finally share our fears and ideas." As days turned into weeks, that feeling blossomed into dedicated action. The town gathered again to develop a plan. Dr. Green offered to help facilitate workshops where residents could learn about sustainable practices. Committees formed to draft a petition demanding the factory implement eco-friendly solutions. Emily enthusiastically joined one of these committees, pouring her energy into communication and organization. Together, they held meetings, invited local leaders, set goals, and tracked their progress. This collective effort brought people closer, building trust and a shared purpose. However, obstacles remained. The factory held steadfast in its proposal, and voices of doubt were not silenced. Skepticism remained, especially from those who still worried about the effects of opposing a major employer. Some friends that Emily once shared laughter with began to drift away, unsure if aligning with the eco-friendly approach was the right path for them. This challenge shook Emily, revealing how deep-rooted fears could sway decisions, tipping the balance between community and self-interest. During this tumultuous time, neighboring towns started to notice Greenvale's fight. Local newspapers ran many stories on the developing situation, shedding light on the admirable unity. This external attention produced its own challenges. People began to flock to support either side of the issue. Empathy blossomed from nearby communities, as mutual struggles against harmful industries resonated with many. Greenvale wasn't simply an isolated town. It became part of a larger narrative, a promising collective yearning for change. As the committee prepared for an upcoming vote on the factory's proposal, Dr. Green provided statistics and data comparing local job growth created by sustainable businesses versus traditional manufacturing. Her research opened eyes and changed hearts. Although it revealed how hard the path would be, it also showed them a glimmer of hope. Places that embraced eco-friendly practices saw their communities flourish in unexpected ways. Conversations shifted, as some neighbors began to see how economic stability could harmonize with environmental integrity. Despite these dawning realizations, the fear never truly disappeared. On the day of the vote, anxiety filled the town hall once again. Fears and passions intertwined as supporters and opponents jostled for their voices to be heard. Emily felt a knot tighten in her stomach, anger radiating through her. "We can't let this momentum stall now," she thought. She remembered what Dr. Green had taught them that night in the darkened hall. Learning from their struggles, building connections, and listening to each other began to form a broader movement. In the vote, while some voices pushed for a factory without any regulation, others echoed their desire for a healthier Greenvale. Resiliency shone as the community learned to communicate openly, but the outcome would change everything. This pivotal moment proved that while unity beat fear, their journey still faced many hurdles. The possible turning point could either signify new beginnings or compel their commitment to standing firm against persistent challenges. While they braced for the decision's impact, the burgeoning community's soul felt it had transformed in ways large and small, pushing back together against complacency. As they approached this moment, there was grit in their hearts, tempered by a growing understanding of how collective strength could pave a pathway for their future, a journey still ripe with possibilities waiting just ahead. The vote had cast a shadow over Greenvale, its aftermath thick with uncertainty. One evening, just days after the decision was announced, Emily and her friends gathered at her house to share their feelings. The proposal for the factory had been approved, but conditions had been laid down for it to implement eco-friendly practices, a small one among many lingering concerns. As everyone settled into comfortable chairs and noisy cushions, apprehension hung in the air. "How will this really affect our town?" Sarah asked, her brow furrowed in thought. Emily noticed that despite their hard work and unity, there were still many unanswered questions. It was bewildering, knowing that the fight was not finished. They must continue to push for the changes they believed in. Almost immediately, differences among social groups within the community became more apparent. Business owners saw the factory's approval differently than residents concerned about the environment. For some, it promised countless job opportunities and a boost in sales. For others, it felt like a betrayal of the standing commitment to environmental health. The local store owners expressed mixed emotions, hoping to attract new customers with the growing factory, but still fearing the negative effects pollution could bring. Mr. Jenkins, who had pressed for clean job policies, felt caught in a storm of conflicting priorities, but knew he needed to adapt. Meanwhile, some farmers who had initially supported the factory now felt torn. They feared the agreement would lead to inevitable pollution that could affect their farms. Together, they began meeting to discuss how they could rally and ensure the factory followed through on its eco-friendly commitments. "If we work together, we can monitor their emissions, rather than wait for problems," one farmer suggested, fostering hope that collaboration could solve worries about the future. The town's government faced pressure as well. With the factory approved, they had to draft and enforce the conditions that would hold it accountable for its pollution practices. Town meetings became lively gatherings filled with technical discussions, as officials sought to learn which measures would truly ensure their environment remained protected. An environmental committee was formed that included local citizens, scientists, and leaders eager to work together. This move sparked interest and a renewed sense of community. Still, lingering doubts loomed, casting uncertainty for many. Someone in the town mentioned, "What if the factory doesn't adhere to the regulations? Are we setting ourselves up for disappointment?" These worries echoed through conversations in coffee shops and neighborhoods. Dr. Green collaborated with local schools too, offering workshops about sustainability that discussed advocating for the community's desires. Schools even pledged to partner with farmers for projects celebrating clean agricultural practices. Even as partnerships formed and plans began to take shape, the emotional toll of the vote weighed heavily on everyone. Discussions in homes often turned into heartfelt conversations reflecting on loss, the loss of idealism when faced with complex realities. Encouragement washed over third spaces in the community as residents came to recognize that fighting hard for the future required acceptance of both small wins and significant challenges. Throughout Greenvale, the process of adapting and responding continued. Dr. Green offered her knowledge, supporting the citizens' voices that urged officials and local leaders to remain transparent and vigilant. As days turned into nights, the journey became less dark, filled with an inspiring commitment harnessed by the community, knowing they could now turn their focus to accountability. The landscape of Greenvale began to shift ever so slightly. Organizations saw the importance of making actionable changes. They collectively captured the spirit of promise while maintaining their fight for the environment and quality of life. Fostering this emerging culture seemed daunting, as it would mean confronting established decisions. In those moments of urgency, everyone became acutely aware, adjusting perceptions and redefinitions of success in a world that demanded ongoing perseverance was necessary across all avenues of life. Each action counted now more than ever. Together, they bore the burden of hope, eager to set their footprints on a brighter path forward. In the months following the town meeting, Greenvale began to witness lasting changes that rippled throughout the community. The approval of the factory had created a shift, but it also opened doors for discussions about sustainability in ways many hadn't anticipated. As residents became more engaged in conversations about the environment, a newfound commitment to eco-conscious living began to flourish. People in Greenvale started to make small changes in their daily lives, thinking critically about their consumption habits. More homes joined the local recycling program, and families supported farmers' markets by buying fresh, locally grown produce. Emily noticed her neighbor, Mrs. Wilson, setting up a compost bin to reduce waste, while other families took to gardening, eager to grow their vegetables. The town embraced organic practices, leading to healthier eating options that directly benefited children and adults alike. Greenvale also became a center for discussion on sustainable practices in business. Many local shop owners collaborated with Dr. Green to share eco-friendly tips with their customers. Emily's favorite cafe began using compostable cups, while others sold products sourced from fair trade and eco-friendly producers. Choices that once felt daunting suddenly became the norm, slowly weaving environmental responsibility into the daily rhythm of life. Local businesses recognized they could improve their bottom line without compromising the health of the earth, igniting further discussions about economic responsibility. Yet important debates continued to swirl among townsfolk. Although the factory adhered to the eco-friendly conditions, its presence facilitated a dialogue about how much pollution was acceptable. Some residents argued that even light pollution held significant risks for their health and their children's future. "We need stricter guidelines," a concerned father implored during a public meeting. "It means our efforts don't just stop here." The worry lingered that if more factories threatened their environment, the sustainable gains could be easily undone. The division between those who favored quick economic growth and those prioritizing environmental preservation often led to heated discussions. Striking a balance between job creation and sustainability remained tricky, and some felt the tension disrupting the sense of unity that had emerged during their fight. Still, the desire to protect the town propelled conversations about accountability and progressive solutions. More residents began to ask what their continued engagement might look like, acknowledging they had to remain involved even after remarkable progress. As these tensions unfolded, new challenges emerged too. Reports from nearby communities highlighted the potential effects of factory emissions spreading to environmental gems like rivers and parks. While Grover Lake, adjacent to Greenvale, served as a beloved local recreation spot, ecologists warned of increased pollution risks due to the factory. Eager to support the growing concerns for their natural resources, residents quickly began organizing cleanup days and awareness campaigns. Emily found herself more passionate than ever, creating flyers and sharing digital posts inviting residents to Greenvale's first Earth Day celebration. The event aimed not only to raise awareness of their environment, but also to celebrate the transformation they worked so hard to achieve. Workshops were scheduled to promote local businesses that focused on sustainable practices, and the townsfolk eagerly prepared. This new generation of change makers reflected the ongoing battle for the heart of Greenvale. With lessons learned from the factory conflict, the community embraced challenges as opportunities for growth. Acknowledging deeper connections between their choices and the world around them encouraged a deeper appreciation for the environment. Each small step fostered progress, reminding residents that unity would endure challenging times. Even as new issues arose and old debates simmered, the essence of their fight, the voices shared and alliances formed, became some of the strongest bonds in their ongoing journey. They recognized that together, they could address problems while celebrating what Greenvale stood for and inspire a new culture of commitment, resilience, and hope for many generations to come. As time drew on, Greenvale experienced a palpable transformation in how the community operated. The voices of the residents, once filled with uncertainty, shifted toward collective confidence and stepping into their roles as guardians of their land, and their community started to feel natural. Emily felt proud of the strides they had taken, but she understood that this was just the beginning. The lessons learned through challenges had created an opportunity for a sustainable future. With a fresh commitment towards nurturing both the economy and the environment, residents began to engage in long-term planning. Emily joined a community task force aimed at creating new policies that prioritized eco-friendly practices. They included incentives for businesses that embraced renewable energy and penalties for those that didn't abide by pollution standards. Greenvale's local government transformed into a model for neighboring towns, inspiring others to pursue similar policies aimed at sustainability. Workers now also had a new voice. Labor unions emerged advocating for eco-friendly practices that protect workers from harmful conditions in factories. Education became central to the task force's initiatives. Schools launched programs focused on green technology and agriculture, encouraging the next generation to prioritize the environment as they climbed the ladder of success. Students learned not just about science, but about activism and accountability, recognizing early on that their choices mattered. This connection to a proud future reshaped debates around social and economic policies. Conversations shifted from short-term profit to long-term health. Residents understood the need to view pollution as not just an environmental issue, but as a social one, recognizing how it impacted well-being and quality of life. Families discussed how climate change affected their daily lives, prompting decisions at home that echoed in town. They became conscious consumers, choosing products that respected nature, not merely the lowest price tag. The invisible ties between community members forged deeper connections. Trust flourished as people became actively involved. Emily, along with her friends, organized workshops that brought together local businesses, scientists, and families, sharing insights about sustainability practices and innovative methods. The more they collaborated, the clearer it became that tackling such immense challenges relied on people coming together to share knowledge rather than compete. While lingering concerns remained, especially involving nearby factories and their pollution levels, it was clear that Greenvale fortified itself against complacency. Town meetings grew vibrant, filled with energy and ideas instead of fear. Residents participated in neighborhood cleanup efforts, creating awareness of their environments and embracing the responsibility that came with it. When they pooled their strengths, no hurdle appeared insurmountable. In this light, Emily didn't just see a community. She saw a collective force where individuals took pride in their roles as activists. Whether by planting a garden, electing local leaders focused on sustainability, or rallying support for environmental initiatives, each action contributed to a bigger picture. Greenvale came to embody a community driven by resilience and hope. Reflecting on everything they accomplished, atmospheres shifted to reinforce the idea of shared destiny. Greenvale taught its residents to view challenges not as barriers, but as invitations to build a brighter, stronger tomorrow. They recognized that the power for true change rested in their hands. They understood that local voices could spark national conversations about environmental policies and society's responsibility to uphold the well-being of future generations. Given the unyielding flow of ideas and innovation, the village now embraced growth and optimism, steady in the knowledge that they could face new challenges ahead. Each resident cultivated camaraderie that echoed through their hearts and homes, pledging to undertake the noble cause of protecting their environment together. In time, Greenvale not only shaped its destiny, but also left a legacy to inspire others. Together, they expanded their vision into a broader model of community engagement and sustainability, reminding themselves and others that when united for a common purpose, anything is possible.